The Resilient Cyber Show. My name is Chris Hughes, and today I'm joined by Alon Schindel. Alon, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. I've been trying to get you on the show for a little while now, but I know we had the pre-RSA and the RSA hype and everything that had you pretty busy over there. But for folks that don't know you, don't know your background, can you share a bit about what you're up to and how you got to where you are in your career?
Yeah, so I've been with Wiz. So hi, I'm really happy to be here on the show today. So I've been with Wiz for more than 3 years. I joined when Wiz was a small startup, and today I lead the threat research team here in Wiz, and we cover cloud threats, threat intelligence, AI, and almost every type of research that is relevant to our product, both like detection of risks and detection of threats. Before Wiz, I worked at Microsoft on the Microsoft Defender team, and before I was part of the Israeli Ministry of Defense, working as an engineer over there, and then a research manager.
Very cool. So you actually just said something that made me want to ask you a question before we dive into some of the topics around cloud security and Wiz and stuff. I saw a metric yesterday someone shared about the number of acquisitions in the last 12 months or 16 months, right? And it was the percentage of them that were Israeli-based startups, and it was like 80% or some insane metric. For folks that aren't familiar with why that is, can you share a bit about what makes Israel unique and why we have such a massive presence of cybersecurity startups in the ecosystem? They have an outsized presence when it comes to innovative entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think, and I had someone else asking me almost similar question last week, because at RSA when we visited, you could hear Hebrew, all around, and so it's like the second, maybe even the first language in this conference, and so I'm really proud that we have this reputation, like Israelis and Israeli startups, they have this reputation in the cybersecurity community. I think it starts with, there are two main factors that are relevant for that. First is Israelis are relatively they have the type of the nature for entrepreneurship, and we see it. We call Israel a startup nation sometimes, and you see that Israelis like to invent, create, and do. Sometimes when it comes to having more processes and things get bigger, it's more difficult for us. But there's something about the creativity and starting new companies that works well here. And the other factor is really the cybersecurity background. And so the military service here in Israel is mandatory, and many of these Israeli startups are founded by ex intelligence unit officers and that we're part of it's called 8200, 200. It's the famous intelligence unit, and kind of the Israeli, for those who don't know, the Israeli equivalent to the NSA. And so it means that every year you have people who finish their military service with expertise in cybersecurity, and they just go and they want to either join other cybersecurity companies with their experience. They don't even have to go to college sometimes, because they were already trained, or start their own companies. And I think that you saw it with companies like companies like Checkpoint. This is one of the largest cybersecurity companies in the world, and it started here, and they started almost 30 years ago. But you keep seeing more and more of these companies, and the Israeli cybersecurity community grows, and it kind of feeds itself. You see more people who join it, and you see that more companies acquire Israeli startups, and I guess it works well for them if they keep doing that.
Yeah, it seems like this ecosystem that cultivates the talent. They get the investment of, on-the-job expertise, experience, exposure, and then they come out with that, entrepreneurship bent to go out and try to create something, to innovate and do something really promising for the ecosystem. I'm going to drop an article here in the notes for folks following live, but there's a great article from Ross Haliliak of Venture and Security, where he covers the cybersecurity ecosystem from Israel. And it's just insane to see the number of startups that have come from there, and startups that are now tied to, first or second degrees of separation from folks from Israel. But for to moving on a little bit to cloud security and things like you're working on with Wiz, you and I had a chance to speak at an event called Misconfigured that Wiz hosted out at RSA on the Monday of the week. And you had to talk about cloud security threats and some of the APT activities and some of the things you guys have seen in the ecosystem that are really prevalent and causing the most risks and concerns for folks. Can you touch on what you covered in that talk? Because I find it really insightful in terms of the most prevalent vulnerabilities that are being targeted, most prevalent cloud service providers, most prevalent APTs, and so on.
Yeah. So we have the privilege to work and have visibility to different types of cloud environments with our great customers, and we have our own internal database where we try to track and collect all the information about them. We actually have more than 200 incidents when we try to do the analysis of like the cloud, what we call the cloud threat landscape. Or Threatscape, as we call it internally. We had over 200 incidents, 65 different threat actors that we track with over 155 techniques. So it's a very, I think we've established the knowledge about what's actually happening there. We also have some knowledge that some internal we can publish everything that we see. So it's based like our insights are based both on public knowledge and private incidents that we help our customers investigate. The public part of this database is available for everyone. We chose to publish it, and so everyone can use that. It's on threats.wiz.io, and we are happy to receive more information. Please send us if you have like more incidents that are not covered there, or more actors that are not covered there. Please let us know, and we'll add them to this database. It was important for us to contribute our knowledge to the community because we learn a lot from the community. And with regards to the actual threats that we see based on that, I think that first, we can say that we see in the past year more and more actually APTs that are joining the cloud. And when I talk about cloud, so I don't mean just Office 365 or kind of the peripheral area of the cloud. I mean really cloud infrastructure, and I talk about cloud native or cloud fluent attackers. And we have seen in the past few months attacks from the Iranian threat actors like Peach Sandstorm and Mango Sandstorm. We also had like the Russian actors like APT 29, one of the more like notorious threat actors, and some also North Korean, Chinese threat actors, even Turkish Sea Turtle. It's attributed to Turkey. So there are all these different threat actors that are now moving to the cloud, and this is we could have seen it in the past, but I think that we see more and more of this. And with regards to I think that what we saw is that many of these cloud attacks are actually relatively similar to one another. So like the theme for my talk was there's the attacker, the hero's journey. It's something that you see in movies like Matrix, Harry Potter, where you have kind of the journey of like they have kind of like similar stories and about the hero, and we think that there is something similar with how the attacker's journey looks like. And so, for example, you have the initial access, you have the previous escalation or the lateral movement, and the impact. And now what we actually see, like what are the actual techniques? So usually for the initial access, we see either exploitation of O days, of 0 days or 1 days, known vulnerabilities. We also see end user compromise. So like stolen credentials are extremely popular, and I can say like we keep seeing like almost every week there are attacks that are based on stolen credentials, and that's like I guess the most prevalent attack vector. Then I think like the next step is usually either doing what we call the IAM acrobatics, trying to move laterally or like get more privileges, and the IMDS abuse, which is some very popular attack vector. And the last stage, it can be either resource hijacking. This is like usually what crypto mining groups are trying to do, the financially motivated actors, or data exfiltration, which is can be either used for extortion or for intelligence operations.
Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to highlight there. You talked about kind of moving laterally. You all have at Wiz you have a framework called Peach. I forget the exact mnemonic of what it stands for, but it's this multi-tenant framework for kind of mitigating this lateral movement, which aligns with microsegmentation and the broader push for zero trust. So I definitely recommend folks check out that framework Peach for multi-tenant isolation in cloud environments. And another thing that you said that makes me want to ask you another question is you talked about the nation state activity and you named, Russia, China, Turkey, other countries, North Korea and so on that are having these activities in the cloud. Some have started to make the argument that cloud itself, especially with these large hyperscale infrastructure as a service providers, are now kind of considered critical infrastructure themselves because of so much of the modern internet and ecosystem is built on top of them. PaaS, SaaS providers, all the applications we use, enterprise business activities, even national security systems and weapon systems. Do you view the cloud in that context of, kind of being now part of the critical infrastructure that we have to, kind of protect as a nation or a world?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, you see first that more and more like the federal services that are moving to the cloud, and these are important for the country and how things operate there. Also, I mean, we see that more and more actually our IoT systems are actually managed in the cloud. So maybe the actual devices are on-prem, but the whole management is in the cloud. And I just had some interesting discussions both with some federal folks and also some people who work in these defense companies, and they are and it's definitely cloud is important for them. They move. I mean, you see the cloud migration is also happening there. So it is something that should be defined, and I think that we start seeing how there are discussions about the cloud and about the cloud providers, the CSPs, about their security and how they secure their services as part of the CISA review board. And I think that it is important because they do have they store sensitive data. The cloud becomes kind of another backbone of like almost every activity that we do. And I mean, for us, we usually help customers, but it's also important not to help only there's the shared responsibilities, and not only making sure that the cloud users and customers are secure, but that the cloud providers are secure as well. And we are usually, we work closely with them, and we are happy to also provide insights like Peach. Peach is actually work that we did about isolation, how you do tenant isolation, but many of the lessons that we learned and were from actually working on isolation issues in cloud providers, like the Chaos DB vulnerability, where our vulnerability research team, they found an issue that enabled us to access Cosmos DB data, cross-tenant Cosmos DB databases, and so it's definitely an important mission for us if we want to secure our critical infrastructure future.
Yeah, I think, it's funny you talk about the shared responsibility model, and that's kind of a fundamental concept we all learn when we start learning cloud. And I think, attackers have just started to exploit the seams in that, because people don't understand where their responsibilities begin or lie. People struggle with, competencies of securing their own environments, configurations, et cetera. And then, as you point out, if and when there is an issue at the cloud service provider level, it's obviously much more systemic and broader because it impacts all or many customers at a time. So it's definitely a challenging dichotomy that we deal with in that regard. Switching gears a little bit, I want to ask you, more on the business, side of things. When you look at Wiz, I know there's been chatter lately about the capital you all have raised. I think it was $1 billion raise that you saw, and there's been a lot of talk about Wiz's plans for M&A, and not to get into any specifics of any specific targets or companies or anything like that by name, but when I know you help out with these activities. When you look at the landscape and you look at like Wiz and the platform and what you all have built so far, how do you look at different products or firms and see what are some key things that jump out at you or you find appealing or you're looking for in that kind of approach?
Okay, yeah. So for us, I think when we talk about acquisition, our goal is not just to acquire a new company. It's not. We want to have excellent companies who can join us in our journey to secure the cloud. And this is so the recent acquisition was of Gem, and Gem they are a company in the cloud detection and response space, and we have seen them. We have seen that they had customers that were impressed with what they do, and we also met the team, and we felt like the team are excellent, and they can also help us in our execution efforts and making completing the cloud security story that we are trying to tell. Specifically there, I mean, we saw an opportunity of, again, like the first, I think the most important factor is having an excellent team. Then and then we, I mean, trying to see what are they building, how they build it, and whether it can help the Wiz journey. In this case, yeah, the CDR, I believe that the cloud detection is different, from on-prem detection, and we've started working on on-prem on our own cloud detection platform, and we learned that when organizations, and many of the organizations that we are working with, they still struggle with detection in the cloud, and they use the CM solutions, which are usually expensive, and this is one pain point for the customers. The other one is noise. I mean, you'd still see noise with these solutions, and all the architecture of sending everything that you do, both from on-prem and the and cloud, to the same huge log database is not not very effective for them, and they have struggled working with that. And we believe that, I mean, the story that we brought to the cloud, and bringing context when you try to prioritize your cloud risks, can also be now done also for detection. So for example, if you have now some kind, I mean, it doesn't even matter what type of detection you have on a resource in the cloud. You want to know whether this resource has access to sensitive data, whether it is exposed, whether it, I mean, there are other lateral movement paths that can start from this resource. And like when you have all this context about an alert, and you can connect different logs from different sources. So if you can take, both runtime logs, the cloud logs, maybe even like Kubernetes logs, and tell the whole story of the attack, it's easier to prioritize and help organizations do it. And we felt like Gem is the right company for us to complete this vision. So this is why we chose them, and we've started working on the integration with them. And I mean, from the inside, it looks great, and we also got great feedback from both their and our customers. And like for the next, you also mentioned like what's coming next. So I think that there are still many new domains in the cloud. Of course, I can name all like specific companies, but again, it's like whether there are an excellent team that can help with excellent execution, and also whether it fits the story of building a full cloud security platform.
Yeah, I love that you started with the team and the people, because a lot of people have spoken about, people who have experience in the M&A space and, venture and so on, have spoken about the importance of the team, right? It's one thing to have the innovative tech and capabilities and so on, but without the right team, the right people, the right personalities, that's kind of you have to have the right team first to build around. I wanted to ask you talked about integration, right? So using Gem, or even, future acquisitions as an example. Some people don't know what that looks like behind the scenes, and they may have used a product that acquired other products and it didn't go well, and it was clunky or whatever, right? When you guys go through that integration process, how do you go about doing it to ensure that the team, the people, and the tech kind of integrate smoothly into what you've built with Wiz, and still have that that customer experience and capability that you've built and have a reputation around?
So first, I think when we come to start this integration, we want to make sure that we're not building a kind of Frankenstein product. I mean, we want it to be like a real integration. So for the experience that we're trying to build is an experience where you don't actually know that there are two different products under the hood. And we've started like as soon as all the details were finalized with Gem, we started learning about their solution. They also learned about our solution, and we tried to choose which concepts should we preserve from each product. So what did we do well, what have they done well, and I mean, try to choose which concepts are the ones that we want to choose, and then to see what is the best, like the easiest way to implement them in a new platform. And so eventually our goal is to kind of rebuild whatever I mean, if there are components that we can keep, I mean, we would like to keep them, but and then see what we should rebuild. But the most important principle for us is that customers won't feel like there are two different products. We want the integration to be, to have real integration and not just, kind of, like it's a third party that we are working with. And I think, again, like the team is also important here. So when we had the discussions with the Gem team, for me it felt like, we said in this meetings, and I felt like I've been working with them for years. So the kind of DNA of this company, the type, like their founders, I believe that we have some shared values with them, and I believe that this is what can make this acquisition work, and eventually our product become even better.
Yeah, again, it comes back to, like you said, the cultural alignment between the people. And then, as you said, I think the emphasis here that you talked about was the customer experience as being the key, and not just cramming it in there and people having a poor experience, poor customer outcomes and so on, which some companies, I don't think they take that, pragmatic, patient approach. Like they just, kind of jam things in there and it doesn't work out well for the customer and ultimately well for the company in the end anyways. I was going to ask you too, there's a bit of a debate around, the platformization or platform versus, best of breed and things like that. Some could argue in the case with Gem, you guys took the approach of not only best of breed, but now becoming part of the platform. But I'm curious, like where you stand on best of breed versus platform, and kind of that hype in the space, and how you guys look at it when you look at acquisition.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a difficult question, because for us, I think there is always, we're trying to balance between, when you get, like, when you hear what customers need and what they want, it's always some of them want us to have, wider coverage, which is like the platform direction. Some of them want us to have the deeper coverage, more like the best of breed coverage. And we're trying to balance, between these two. I think we never compromise. Even if we build a platform, we want to have like the best, like that each part of this platform will be the best. So one example is the sensor. We launched it. It was, we started as an agentless platform, and we saw, and we actually heard from customers that they want us also to provide them, and they want like everything. There's the consolidation trend now, so they want the runtime protection also to be part of Wiz. So we hired an excellent team that were able to build this runtime sensor in really in a very in short time, only in a few months. And we launched it around, like, we started talking with customers about it a year ago, and we launched it officially last June. And we saw that even though, like, now it's a platform, it's not only the agentless product, there is also the sensor, which is new. We saw that customers love that we have, they have everything in the same place, but we didn't compromise on the quality, and we've built like the best sensor that we can do with low memory consumption. Every ask that we got from the customer, and the feedback that we received was good. So maybe what I can say here is that you don't have to compromise. You can try to do both build a platform, but make sure that the standard is still excellent. If you want, if it's important for you, it is something that it's possible. Of course, we always learn. We do mistakes. I'm not trying to be too cocky about what we do. We do mistakes. We learn, but I think that we are trying to believe that we can build an excellent platform, and we are trying not to compromise on the quality when we do that.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying, your guys' success in the market is kind of indicative of your commitment to doing that, and customers have responded accordingly in the market and so on. And also, I think it shines a light on what behind the curtain. You said you have such a broad base of customers with diversification, where some want best of breed capability, where others want broader coverage. So you're kind of trying to balance that dichotomy among your broad customer base, which is a challenge, of course. So one of my last questions for you, and you touched on this a bit in your talk, of course, you got to talk about AI a little bit at RSA, right?
Yeah.
We hear a lot, obviously, around AI and cybersecurity, both for the implications of AI to improve security, but also the need to secure AI. And I know you guys have some capabilities around AI, SPM, AI security posture management, for example, and so on. Where do you stand when you look at like the ability for both AI to improve security outcomes, but also us needing to secure AI as well?
Yeah, so we can't get away from talking about AI. Actually, I saw yesterday Anton Chovakin from Google. He called it RSAI, like this conference this year, and I think he's right. So first, when we think about AI, it's amazing to think that ChatGPT was launched only a year and a half ago. It was November 2022. Yeah, so it's really unbelievable that what happened ever since then, and you keep seeing how fast this domain is evolving. And I think maybe one of the interesting insights about AI is that we actually see that the security of AI is being developed together with the actual domain. So it's one of the first instances, I think, that where maybe even the first instance where we see that you have them being developed together. With cloud, it took a few years before the actual good cloud products, security products came, and in here it's coming really. Coming together. So first about is it real? Is the hype real? We've conducted a kind of research, and we saw that services, AI services are being used in more than 70% of cloud environments, and it's like it's really unbelievable. Probably the fastest adoption of technology that we've ever seen. And part of it is because of the cloud, because it's so easy to just onboard the service, whether you use whether it's AWS Bedrock, Azure OpenAI, or just OpenAI. You can just onboard to this service in minutes and start using these technologies. And just to give you, to have kind of a benchmark. So it's almost same rate of usage of Kubernetes in cloud environment. So this is where we are, and it's a relatively new technology. And since we saw that this AI is real, it's really out there. We try to understand what are the risks that might be introduced to cloud environments because of the usage of AI. And so there are we can divide it into different categories. So first, data, just like risk to data. More organizations use AI, and it means that they use more training data. There might be sensitive data in it. There might be secrets in it. You have to make sure that what's in there when you train your AI models. Also, you have to make sure that this data is not exposed, because more teams are using the AI services now, and you have to make sure that they know how to protect this data. And I think that the likelihood for data exposure is bigger now, because more teams work with this sensitive data. So this is, I guess, one component. You have to make sure that your data is secure, and then you have to also make sure, more on the runtime level, you have to make sure whether someone is trying to actually maybe escape, do some what we call model escaping. And we had a joint research with Hugging Face. Hugging Face, they are, I think, the kind of GitHub for AI models, and they have kind of a platform where everyone can upload or download models, and it's the most popular platform. And we have shown, our research team showed that you can upload a model to this platform, and AI models, you can think about them as code. It doesn't matter if you don't understand all the concepts of LLMs, AI models can be, it's a pickle. Some of them, are pickle files. They are just passed by Python, and you can add some code to these models. And we show that you can actually, using this malicious code, you can actually upload it to platform. People can use it, and you can start move laterally within environments and take over the whole environment, just starting from this malicious model. So, for us, it showed that the AI risk is real, and this is why we also chose to add to our product some of AI security capabilities. So you can see, first, have visibility, and I think this is the most important thing. This is the lesson that I also learned from Wiz. First, you have to have the visibility to see who is actually using AI in my organization, and to make sure that it's you have the right governance for AI usage, and you also have you have to make sure that the teams actually know about AI risks, and how to protect the relevant areas in the product. And after you have visibility to AI models, AI services, AI configuration, AI exposure, you have to start analyzing the risks. And the same story of toxic risk combinations is also there for AI. And so, one example is, if you have a model that is that the data for this model is stored in a bucket that is exposed to the internet, and it means that someone can change the data in there and maybe influence your model, or maybe someone can steal the data that this model is being trained on. So all these toxic combinations are also important for AI. And I mean, just seeing a single risk like with a siloed product won't give you the full picture that you need in order to protect your environment.
Yeah, I think you said a few things that I want to make sure we emphasize is, I think that what you said about, us kind of working on securing AI along with the adoption curve is spot on. I've seen the same, obviously we'll never be tied neck to neck with the business adoption, but we are seeing so many great efforts by organizations like Cloud Native Computing Foundation, Cloud Security Alliance, OWASP, who are putting out a lot of great guidance on securing the use of AI and opportunities to secure AI and secure adoption of AI and so on. But I think that's because we've learned our pain points, of bolting security on versus building it in with cloud and other things, other prior technological waves. And as you point out, a lot of the same sound security practices, when you look at software development or secure software development life cycles and things like that, apply here as well. Or secure infrastructure and architecture and so on can apply to adopting AI as well. And I think we're looking to see how we can apply those from the onset of adoption, which is promising. But that said, there are some new aspects to it with models and things like that, the data and so on that we need to be considerate of. And I think that we're also starting to look at that. So I agree with you. I think we're doing a much better job than we've done with previous technological waves. But it'll be interesting to see how we, from the defender's perspective, keep pace with the attackers' innovative uses of AI for malicious purposes as well. So last question I ask every guest here is, what does the term cyber resiliency mean to you?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I think for me is always thinking about the next threat. It's not only focusing on what's happening now. I think you always have to try and think what's coming next, and like what is the next step that the attackers might want to take. And yeah, I think with my whole career in the cybersecurity, like you can, I mean, what I love about it is that you always have to learn and always have to think about the next thing. So if you just sit and focus on the threats of yesterday, you won't have the resilience and it's not what you can do in order to protect your organization.
Yeah, well said. And I think you emphasized that throughout the conversation around cloud detection and response and some of the things that we touched on there in terms of cloud threats and so on. So that said, Alon, thanks so much for joining me, and thanks to everyone who tuned in. That'll take us out for today.
Thank you.